Hello, 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 and welcome to another edition of the Collective Spotlight. I love that this episode we are going back to our Kickstarter roots with our buddy Sean P. Terry, who has a book that just successfully funded. I think actually last night I got the notification, but the bar has successfully funded through Kickstarter. The Collective backed it. Sean, how are you doing today, man?
I'm great, man. I can't thank the collective enough.
So tell us a little bit about the bar. I found you while you were on a Travis Gibb creator roundtable type of thing, and you talked about the bar a little bit, and man, you had me sold. But tell our customers a little bit about what you are writing with the bar.
So the bar is a standalone series. Honestly, if it's up to me, it's going to be about 50 short stories that are all adapted to comic format. I'm really inspired by like Tales from the Crypt and Law and Order, and kind of the bar. I would say it's a good mixture of them too, with perhaps Black Mirror sprinkled in, and that each episode, if we want to call it that, is same settings. It's always going to be the bartender, and then what changes is who walks in and the story they tell. So it's all going to be kind of more of a dark nature, horror, tales of revenge, murder. There could be some of compassion. You could have I've said a victim walk in there, a perpetrator walk in there. Everybody kind of has something to share and is lured into the bar. And then, so I think as a reader, if you like the setting and you like the dynamic, then every month you get a new story, right? Or if it becomes serialized in that fashion, that's what would happen.
That's cool. And you mentioned a little bit that a little bit akin to Tales of the Crypt and things like that. What is it about being able to do that kind of format of horror anthology that kind of brought you into it? I know a lot of us grew up watching at one point in time Tales of the Crypt, but as a storyteller, what is it about that medium that kind of makes it intriguing to jump into?
Yeah. So I think, like I said, when you can turn in every new week or every new day or every new month and get a new story, you don't have to play a lot of catch up, right? I think even when you look at Law and Order, for example, in the early years, it was always the same two detectives for 5, 10 seasons at a time, the same prosecutor. So what changed was the protagonist, right? Who committed murder, who did what. So when you do a backdrop like that, it just lets you focus on individual characters and then their interactions. I've heard Neil Gaiman say about Sandman that when he created that, he created it at essentially endless characters so he can tell any story from the beginning of time until the end of time. So if you've created that kind of a backdrop, then it's totally up to you. Who do you want to have walk in? What do you want to have them say? Is this a survivor? Is this somebody that's been through hell and an ordeal, and you get a tale of human compassion and to really see their story? Or is this somebody that stole somebody's money and pushed them off a ship and has gotten away with murder, or so we think, and maybe there's some kind of a fitting retribution or a karmatic justice. I think that's where the comparison to Tales from the Crypt might come in, because a lot of those stories had a bit of a twist ending, and sometimes it catches the reader or the viewer off guard. It's the same thing with Black Mirror, if you're familiar. I think pretty popular on Netflix, but a lot of those endings, they kind of are alluded to, and then you still might not see them coming, but when they do, they kind of grab you. So I really, if I'm to have my goal achieved, I'm to have a series like that.
And the book, man, the book is awesome because this premise you have going, I think it's all parts, multiple parts original, things we know, things we love. I love the idea that you're taking that Tales of the Crypt meets, a Law and Order or something like that. I love the idea of what, like you said, that everybody going into the bar is, either going to be, the prosecutor or maybe the accused or things like that. And I think that leads to a plethora of stories. I mean, you could be doing this for years if you really wanted to keep revisiting the bar. The first issue, you're the writer, and the story and the concept you have here is awesome. The art is actually also awesome. While you were talking, I scrolled through some of the Kickstarter stuff. The cover is beautiful. You went with, like, I don't want to call it a photorealistic, but like it definitely has that realism to it and that darkness to it. Can you talk to me about a little bit about the artist you worked with and everything on this one?
Yeah, so I think as far as the company goes, there's a heavy skewed lean toward more of that realistic art, more of the photorealism. stylistic art is the thing nowadays, and depending on what I write and what I want to do, I'm probably going to choose an artist that fits that style if that's what it's based on. This is more like your classic Vertigo series. You remember growing up and seeing a lot of the Gwen Fabry covers, and
Hmm.
whether it was Preacher or Hellblazer. So I think I draw a lot of inspiration from the things that I was reading when I was 16 or 18 or 20, right? And so when it comes to creating the bar, it's your classic kind of a old school Vertigo series. So if you were into that stuff, which I don't know that I put that in the Kickstarter campaign, but if you're into that stuff, then you're probably into the bar. So and even if you think early 2000s when you saw like the Ultimates, and you saw the art there, uh, that page that you're showing, it's not a far cry from that, right? So that's stylistically the art that's going to fit the bar, and working with that artist, we're on the same page cinematically. He's very good at doing a more realistic tone, and if you want to get into the creative process a bit, I think that I write full script by and large, and so everything that hits the page, from the layout to the thumbs and the finished products and a gesture, those are probably all things that are worked out during the creative process.
Nice. And so is this bald fella here? That's our bartender, right?
Yeah.
And is he going to? It's going to be the same. Are you planning on doing the same bartender as you go through, or are we going to see shift changes at the bar?
So that's kind of the funny dynamic. Slight spoiler alert, but in issue 2, he appears white. Same guy, same facial features and everything. In this issue, he appears to be an African American man, and I think kind of his race and I think kind of his appearance may fluctuate a bit based upon who's inside. And part of it is the dynamic of the bar. So the bar is a series that it opens it up in the early pages. So I'm not really spoiling too much. I think you could even read them on the Kickstarter, but kind of the people that enter the bar do so through kind of like a compelling pull, right? Like they're either guilty or hurt or something, and the bar kind of appears, and that's when they notice it during their drive or during their walk or during their whatever they were doing, and that's kind of what makes them enter. So to be able to tell a story, I think you have to put the occupant in somewhat of a state of ease or openness, and so kind of what they see is what's going to do that for them. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so for her, when we're looking at how he's appearing to her, I think he's appearing to her. It says so. I think around page 4 or 5, almost more like her father figure. And there's if you scroll down, I think it's that 5th page. You'll see like a little bit of a transformation. He's appearing with a similar look, but a little bit more like the look of a soldier, more akin to her father, and he has more of like a white complexion then. And that just gives an idea of maybe a little bit more of what she's seeing as opposed to what we might be seeing. And so I think it's all going to depend. I mean, obviously, if somebody walks in there and let's just say that they're a white male and they're racist, they're probably not going to see an African American bartender and want to open up and share their story to them. So part of what we might see as the reader is kind of a reflection of the occupant, the protagonist in that particular story psychology as well.
Nice, nice. And I like that idea. And honestly, I know you mentioned like, and I guess Black Mirror is the new, Twilight Zone, but I have a little bit of Twilight Zone vibes too, like the way you say the bar appears to them when they're in that moment. That's so Twilight Zone, like where you're driving and you're restless, and then the hotel pops up, and that's the hotel that gets you killed or gets you into an alternate dimension. What's your, so obviously you have a lot of influences that seem to be, I don't want to say not from comic books, but obviously the influences here are not Superman, Batman, things like that. What was your comic book origin story? What got you into comics, Sean?
I think I was a 90s kid watching X-Men the animated series, and I'd catch a cool cover with Wolverine versus Ghost Rider or something in the Jim Lee era, right? So we all have those fond memories of our first comic, or the first time walking in the store and what we've read. And so I had all those same inspirations. I think I became probably a big time heavy reader middle school, just collecting all the back issues I could, all the Uncanny X-Men that I could, more Marvel than DC at that age. I think I've heard a friend say before that people who start as Marvel when they become adults, probably they gravitate toward DC more. At least they appreciate it more. I'd say that's probably true with me as well. So not to put a finger or tilt the scales between those guys, but so I've always had those influences. But a lot of the stories that I think of or that appeal to me, I think have a lot of realism in them, or at least could actually happen, like they're based in the real world. So there's times that I might write superhero, and there's ideas perhaps on the back burner. But even that, probably that might be somebody who's more like Batman, who I think there's a possibility that we could see this in the world. And how do if you read like Bendis's Daredevil, the way that was portrayed, it was a superhero, but it's portrayed in such a realistic way that you didn't really have to dispel reality very much, right? You're like, oh yeah, that could totally happen. If there's a guy that could hear, or there's a guy that could fight like that, So I really like to craft it to where you don't have to suspend your belief very much, because what you're witnessing could actually be taking place.
Well, and you mentioned earlier that the book has a little bit of a, especially on the art style vibe of Vertigo. Were you an early Vertigo adopter when you were reading comics, or is that something that eventually somebody said, "Hey, this is something I think you'd like," or did you jump in very early on?
It just depends. I think when some of those series came out, I might have only been 10 or 12. I think by the time I was able to read them, I read them. And so by the 2000 or so era, I think a lot of those things were still ongoing or wrapping up. But that's also when trade became popular. So I was quick to kind of grab that and catch up. And that's always kind of been my influence, I think. And for me, as a writer, I tend to gravitate toward writers, like JMS has always been a big influence. Neil Gaiman has, Warren Ellis, and then a lot of the guys, from those eras. Obviously, Gaiman and Alan Moore. These are the people that I read, and I think as the reader, it was always, can I catch them at work, right? If I'm reading, whether it's Swamp Thing or Miracle Man, do I see where this starts to be unbelievable or something, or does it hook me the whole time? And so I think that was always my allure as the reader is, what is it that I can kind of consume and enjoy, and just recommend to anybody, because you're not going to watch this master at work. And so uh, as a creator now myself, that's kind of what I'm aiming to do. It's a very high bar, and it might be a little bit of a walker call to get there, but that is the goal.
Well, and Sean, this isn't your first dive into comics. You've done a few others. One of the ones that you've talked about on here is We as Americans. Can you tell people about some of the other books that you've written prior to the bar?
Yeah, so we as Americans, again, if we're speaking reality based, that was kind of like let's just say there were people with powers like the X-Men. Reasonably, how might they all get together? How would they find each other? If you don't have Cerebro, right, and you don't have Shield, then how are they actually going to get together? So kind of it was my thought that you might have a kind of like a billionaire, like almost like a benefactor, like a Tony Stark, who for whatever purposes he may want to employ people or find talented people, whether it's having associates of his scanning YouTube trying to find these people. He might actually find people who have maybe low level powers. Maybe there's somebody who can read minds, or there's somebody who can slightly levitate something, if you catch them at work, kind of a thing. So I think that I started with that kind of a germ or a concept for it, but then it became like it became a lot of all right, what are the tasks and missions of these people, and what might they do? And so I think that's Alexander Vermont, the lead character. I guess you could consider him the genius character. That's kind of like his name, or the name he likes to be referred to. But he essentially put them together, and in the first issue, it opens up kind of introductions to everybody, and background about him is kind of his philanthropic missions that he might be recruiting people to go on. But that series is designed to run 12 issues, and it was actually Ed Ben's cover. One of the lead characters on the other cover up there is drawn by Ed Benz, who everybody knows from kind of Marvel and DC. And then the series itself was drawn by Edgar Salazar, who again drew X-Men and was a Marvel artist. So I think when we're going into that, we're just looking at doing a big production, and trying to capture what real world heroes might look like that opening scene is with Versace Jackson. He's not only he's a bodybuilder, but he's a community builder. So he's trying to do good in the neighborhood, and so when he gets essentially the phone call that everybody gets, I think the Vermont character reaches out to everybody and just tries to recruit them toward whatever might appeal to them. For some people, that's money. For some people, it's doing good. But everybody essentially, I think, in issue 1 is getting recruited and kind of getting set up toward forming a team, and then beyond that, they would be then I think issue 2 and subsequent issues. We kind of see what they're doing, and a lot of it's to have commentary and social commentary on America. There's tons of comedy and other aspects to that series, which you get, I think, a bit of an introduction to it in issue 1, but when other issues are produced, I think we're going to see a lot of intrigue from just, it doesn't matter what it is. In the background, you might hear like a podcast or there might be the news on in the background. A lot of the stories told through there to capture different voices in America. So it does have, I think, political leanings and things. And I was writing that a lot during the Trump presidency, and there was just so much to pull from as I was kind of like updating and things. So I think it'd be a blast, and I can't wait to produce more of that one either.
So that was the first issue, right? And that's what you have so far on that one?
Correct, yeah.
Cool. And then as I kept scrolling, I was like, oh my God, I forgot you have a sci-fi soiree too here with 21,000 AD. You mentioned that a little bit to us?
2100 AD, not to correct you, but so basically, like the series title, it takes place in the year 2100, and this is artificial intelligence kind of takes over the world, but not in a way that you've seen before. A lot of people might not really think about it, but The Matrix and Terminator are the same story. What's different is the execution. What's different is the direction that they went in it, right? So I think we have time travel in Terminator. I think in The Matrix, each of those series you kind of have like an AI wiping out humanity or wiping out what's going to stop them from wiping out humanity, building bodies for themselves. This is a bit of a different story. This is more of a story of kind of like a practical journey of how AI progressed from today as we understand it until the year 2100. When we talk about, what are the uses for AI and what are they becoming? Well, at first, we're starting to see it in self-driving cars, and as we're starting to notice this, we're not just programming, I guess, code into the car. In a sense, we're programming its morals. A self-driving car has to choose: am I going to save the passenger that's inside, that's the driver, or am I going to save this mother and her child who are walking across the street? If a collision is inevitable, it has just a second to decide. And then how is it going to decide that? It's going to decide that, is it going to be based upon the age or the number of people or what it perceives as their value to society? So these are a lot of the questions that we're going to be exploring in the years and decades to come as we begin to use artificial intelligence more. So I think in this series is what's happening is artificial intelligence. We kind of get to see the progression of it from now until the year 2100, and then we also see it at its height and peak, which is as an assisting kind of tool for humanity that's solving problems and creating solutions to things like unemployment or overpopulation or overcrowding. And then it does explore in this series kind of how the world got to be different or what went wrong. I think too many times when you turn on Netflix, you're in this dark dystopian future and you have no idea how it got that way, and they never explain it to you. And there's some female or male character that walks up and shoots a gun and says a one-liner, and you're supposed to just assume that she's awesome or he's awesome, and there's not really rhyme or reason or explanation. So this first issue, the first half of it, it's like 44 pages. The first half of it acts more like an issue 0 to kind of catch everybody up to speed on what happened and how the world got this way, and then the next half of it is kind of real time with our survivors and their plans and what they're working toward. So again, this series it does have a volume 2 that will be on Kickstarter in the months to come, and then volume 2 is also going to be 44 pages. I think it's designed to run maybe 5 44-page volumes.
Awesome, man. And I love the way like you said, so obviously one of my biggest, I love post-apocalyptic stories. My biggest problem with
People do.
post-apocalyptic stories is why can you not explain to me how we got to this post-apocalyptic? I'm not telling you to do 5 issues of that, but why can your first issue not explain why we're here? And I think you're knocking that out while also knocking out the one of my all-time favorite artificial intelligence movies is I, Robot, and that Sonny is built with that moral code that he's supposed to decide who survives based on probabilities, and Will Smith's character is all about his morals. And I always love that conflict, so I'm really excited for this one as well, man. How many books are those all three of the books that you currently have, or have you written other books as well?
No, I wrote a series called "I'm Watching You." It's never seen Kickstarter. It's one issue in the bag so far. That's just designed to run 4 issues. It's like a mini horror story. I'll see if I can't provide you something to show next time we're on for that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another aspect. So I mean, you got kind of like your action, adventure, comedy, political satire series. You got your artificial intelligence destroys the world kind of a series, and you got more like your kind of drama, horror, suspense series with the bar, and then just pretty much straight up horror movie with I'm Watching You. So I think I like to play in different baskets. I don't know what to say.
I like it. No, yeah, you got a couple of pieces in every sandbox, and I kind of love it. We're definitely gonna have to try to carry all of these books for not just the bar, but I mean, I'm gonna want copies of all of these things, man.
Well, I'll tell you, when I ship the bar to you, I'll have to at least include a copy of 2100 AD because they exist. They are around.
For sure, dude. We'll talk because if you're already shipping those, maybe we can get buy some of the other books from you as well to get out here.
Sure.
So back to the bar as we're getting ready. So the Kickstarter is over. You've successfully funded. Just got to wait for everything to clear. When are you hoping to have the book printed and start, kind of fulfilling the pledges?
Kickstarter typically says they take 2 weeks. So if we assume 2 weeks from yesterday, we might be something like the 20th, and then I think up to 2 weeks, usually a week and a half for the printer. So I promised in the Kickstarter that it would be November delivery. I'm 100% positive it will be November delivery. I do like to have the books turned around and then not have too many hurdles to get them into people's hands. So I think that'll always be true for as long as I can make that be true. So with any luck, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody got it by Halloween. I would love for that to happen. So that's what we're going to aim for.
Cool, man. And no, I always love quick turnarounds on Kickstarter. I actually really love when somebody goes to Kickstarter with an pretty much almost or completed book, because that means that us as the backers don't have to wait all that long. You guys kind of just get sending it off to the printer, maybe getting it edited. So it's awesome to see you in 1 month from it pretty much ending. You're hoping to already start shipping out comics, which is awesome.
Then it's more like previews that way, right?
Yeah, you pretty much are your own. So Joe just asked, where's the romance comic?
Yeah, I have to. There's a like I mentioned before. There's actually a superhero comic as well, but it's always a struggle creatively because there's only so much bandwidth there. So in a sense that I introduce the bar, and then sometimes people are, well, when's the next one of 2100 AD coming? So I think to be fair, I need to continue to create a little bit more of what exists already. Get past the issue ones, get to issue 2 and 3s. Uh, for the bar, that might go on for some time, but at least for 2400 AD, there could be an end in sight, right? So I think probably romance could be something down the line, but for now, no romance.
But no, man, it's so cool, especially like I said, you've got a bunch of pieces in these sandboxes, and like none of these stories are done. You're kind of, whenever that right moment comes, you can jump back into 2100 AD, or you can jump back into We as Americans. Like, it's really cool. And obviously the bar, like I said, that one you can end it whenever you want, because literally, you could take a year off and come up with 4 new characters and bring those 4 characters into the bar, and you have a whole new arc.
Yeah, Yeah,
Was
and
that your plan when you created the bar, to kind of try to have this self-contained piece that can also kind of take on a life of its own?
yeah, I think so because part of it is I really wanted to establish in the early issues like kind of the rules and the mechanics and the dynamics of the bar. You know, here's the setting, here's what can happen, and then kind of build from there. So I mean, you know, if let's just say there were to be some super savage, you know, serial killer who is just going to town or ends up, you know, like destroying the bar, having a giant fight or something, that probably wouldn't be issue one, right? Because that's not really the best way to introduce the setting and the concept and everything. So as the bar goes, you know, and I have to spend a little bit less time on creating the world of the bar because that's been revealed, you know, in the first say handful of issues. Then I think it allows me to explore different things. You know, we can leave the bar. We can now like from flashback, and we can now through you know, different other mediums of storytelling, whether it's a recollection or just showing what happened after somebody you know exited. But in the future, that's going to be probably more possible and prevalent. And then I've thought too, maybe I'll get to 50 issues one day, and then I'll do a year one that really focuses on the beginning of the bar and how that was. So I think I'll play with that one for a very, very long time.
Yeah, that's it's just a playground that you can go into so much. And like, you have this collage that you did. I think this one you did through social media. Um, it has a couple of the panels that we saw in there with the bartender and everything, but it also has this, you know, this policeman character here that we didn't really see through the Kickstarter. A couple of scenes with I'm not sure, you know, could be some domestic violence, something going on over here in the corner too. But I'm excited for what you're building in this first issue, and I don't want you to spoil like who our guest kind of in the bar is, but like, what can we expect in this first issue? You know, is it mostly suspense? I know you mentioned Tales of Crypt, and people immediately think horror, but in a story like this, are we thinking more suspense than horror per se, or how do you approach that?
Yeah, so every story is going to be pretty unique. It's really based upon that person, you know. So this first issue, Lorena Davis walks in. She's somebody who, you know, I don't think we come out and say that like her child was taken away, but you know, she talks about having you know a child that she doesn't know where that person's at, right? And she's had substance abuse issues, and she's open and candid about that, and she's also had domestic issues, right? So without going too deep into her story or giving too much away, I think that you know every tale is going to be really authentic and realistic and human. And I think the best part about that is the reader is you know wouldn't you like to you know whether it's for a half hour at a time or something, wouldn't you like to learn from a billionaire that day? Wouldn't you like to learn from a social worker that day? uh, would you like to know, you know, how life was for somebody from World War II? I mean, I think there's just no end to the kinds of stories I can tell and the kinds of people that I can introduce. And it's the only, I guess, limitation, if you would even call it that, is just that it's keeping with the theme of it, right? There's always going to be some kind of a horror element to it, some kind of a darker element to it, and it's all going to tie in and fit really well.
It's awesome, man. We really can't wait to carry the book here in the store. It's going to go on our. I don't know how much you knew about this because Travis was just talking in his chat. But we have here at the store the Collective Initiative, which is small press, self published Kickstarter stuff. You know, I mean, Travis Gibb is kind of the king of it all. But we support all you guys. I always say, if you could put a retailer tier in your Kickstarter, like, we're going to take a look, you know, and you were on that chat and you already had the tier there. And or actually, were you the one of you guys created a tier just so that we could
It was
do it?
me for you.
That was you. Yes. So like, yeah, because I'm literally sitting there like, I want the book for the store. How do we help me help you? And you made it happen, man, right there on the spot, like 30 minutes into the interview. So thank you so much, man. I cannot wait to get this in the hands of our customers. I think they're gonna love it. Please, if you can, when you ship ours, sign a couple of them. Our customers love signed stuff. So if you could sign a couple of the books, that'd be dope.
So I'll sign them all, and there will never not be a retailer tier in my future campaigns because there's no thanking me. It's really about your store, and you know, if every store across America wanted to be involved in the indie community, it would kind of cease to be the indie community because you know that support. You can't put a price on what you guys do over there, So I'm happy to come on anytime. I'm happy to do whatever I can to spread the word. And honestly, you and your store are the ones that need to be thanked.
Well, thank you very much, man. Let the people know if they want to follow you either for personal updates or through other comics that you're working on. Where can they find you? Are you on social media at all?
Yeah, Facebook's fine. Sean P. Cherry will probably pull me up. I just ended one website. I'm creating a new one. So I think if I come back on end of the month, beginning of next month, whenever you guys have that book in your hands, I should be able to give that info too.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time, Sean. Best of luck with your other endeavors. The bar was obviously a huge success, and we can't wait to see more of your stuff, man. Thanks for your time today, and have a good rest of the day.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. We'll see you guys soon.
Absolutely, man. So thank you to my guest, Sean Terry, man. Great guy in the indie community. The book looks amazing. The bar #1. We're gonna have it here. He wants to have it here by Halloween. I'd love Halloween's going to be on a Sunday this year, so if it does end up showing up by that weekend, we will let everybody know. But we'll probably have him back on the show for the first week of November once we know the books are going to be here. What's up, Pops? Just wrapped it up with Sean. Sean's an awesome guy. I'm going to make sure he gets into the madness. But yeah, thank you to Sean. Thank you for everybody. Thank you for Doe, Jennifer, Phil for watching. Thank you for anybody that's still watching. We are doing a dungeon crawl on October 30th for Halloween. It's the Saturday before Halloween. We're going to do it's like an escape room, but for D&D. So you're going to be thrown into a crypt and you have to survive it. And we'll give out prizes for people whose groups survive it. And then Max is back for Maximum Monday tomorrow, or not Maximum Monday, Auction Wednesday. He has some cool stray dog stuff. Actually, I'm going to show one of them right now. This is a exclusive trade paperback. This isn't like real. Like this is like we can't even order more of these. So that's going to be on the auction along with tons of other goodies. So thank you very much for watching. Hey, yeah, I'm still here. And Halloween Comic Fest is on the 23rd. We're going to be launching our Kickstarter book as well as having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 6 creators off the top of my head, 3 artists, 3 writers, Travis Gibb, Jonathan Hedrick, David Galliano, David Summey, Vincent Atkins, Tyler Carpenter, and Emily Ricette. And we should be having a few more. I had them all. I got them.
October 21st, Wonder Woman Day.
October 21st is also Wonder Woman Day. So if you're a big Wonder Woman fan, come on out. Stephanie Phillips was just in the store signing this past weekend. She has a Wonder Woman book coming out in November. So make sure you guys keep posted here to the collective. Tons of goodies coming in the next month. And we'll see you 5:30 Wednesday.